and welcome to Citizen McCain. This is our last episode before the 4th of July. I hope you are enjoying time with your family and do all the fun patriotic things coming up. I am here in Arizona, as you all know, with friends and family and having basically the best time I've ever had. And I do not want to go back to DC. It's way better in Arizona. I'm sorry, everybody. It's just way better here than it is there. And I could easily stay here with our lovely friends at this studio. I'll just stay here forever. I'm teasing. I will go back at some point, but we're having a really good time. And I hope you all, whatever you're planning on doing, are having a good time too. This show today, we're very excited. We are going to have our friend Ryan Gerdusky coming on. We have a lot of breaking news. American patriotism is at a record low, according to a new recent poll from Gallup. Leah Thomas, the trans swimmer, had some very bad news come out of Penn yesterday. Trump, alligator Alcatraz, real, fake, what does it mean? Really wonderful polling for Trump. And then we're going to get into the Mamdani of it all because we have new information from Trump about that. And then I have a really, really, really delicious poll and tweet from our old pal, Mayor Pete. I love it. I can't wait to share with you. I don't know just how much he has not learned as he continues to want to run for president in 2028. All right. If you're listening on the podcast and you want to join us on Zoom, you can register to do that at twoway.tv/Megan. And please don't forget to raise your digital hand. Oh, I'm sorry. We also have Amy Parnas from The Hill coming on, and she's going to talk about her new article all about how the Democrats are reconciling with the socialist Mamdani of it all. And a reminder that if you've not subscribed to our YouTube channel, to do it, youtube.com/@CitizenMcCain YouTube. All right. We have Ryan here. Oh, also, sorry. Miranda is sick. Miranda is not feeling well. Miranda
Oh
hasn't
no.
quit. Hello, Ryan. Every time
Hi.
Miranda isn't here, people are like, they've finally broken up. They're not friends anymore. No, Miranda is like deathly ill, and I told her that she has to take a day off today. Ryan, I'm so happy to be here. Let me do your intro really quickly, even though everyone knows you. So Ryan is with the 1776 Project PAC. He is the author of the National Populist Substack and host of the Numbers Game podcast. And you can follow him on X at Ryan Gerdusky. Ryan, I'm so happy to talk to you right now.
Of
Thank you so
course, I'm
much
happy to
for
be
doing
here.
this. I
Yeah,
love talking to you. We're also
yeah.
personal friends, so like I feel like I should say that. Just really quickly, we have a lot to get into Republican politics, and I want to dive really fast, but I gotta show you this because it's just so delicious. Okay. So I sent this to you, I texted this to you, but Pete Buttigieg, number 8, please. Over the weekend, he followed UFC on Twitter, like the ultimate. See that right there? So he decided that he's going to follow UFC. Now I'm going to tell you why I think this is hilarious. Number one time when I interviewed Mayor Pete, I asked him what he does for fun, and his answer, and this has been burned in my brain since it happened. He said that Chasten is very good at charades, and even at the time, I remember thinking, so you go home and you do charades with your like that's your like I don't understand. Like that doesn't sound real. And it also sounds like if that is what you're doing, I have absolutely nothing to relate to you on whatsoever. I take this as like, UFC is like Joe Rogan, Trump, hyper machismo, extremely popular with men in the country, ages like 26 to 45. What was your takeaway when you saw that he followed
Yeah, you texted me
UFC?
this the other day and I just laughed because I mean, like the problem with Mayor Pete is genuinely, I mean, he's been in public life now for 5, 6 years. I could not name one thing about him besides that he has his pair of twins, and he has a husband. I don't know anything about, and he was in the CIA and he worked for some. He has no personality, and he looks. If you like back in the '90s, there was all those movies and TV shows of people who would morph into different like people. He looks like one of them. Like he looks like he could physically morph into anybody, and he doesn't have an appeal with Democrats. I mean, he just doesn't because the Democratic base is, especially in the primary now that it starts in South Carolina, are conservative black voters. They want nothing to do with him. And I mean, how many states are you going to hop around before you can sit there and run for office? Like, just call it a day. I'm sure there's something else you would probably do very, very well at, but he has no appeal whatsoever. And like, it's the thing. So remember back when Romney ran in 2012 and he was like kind of ashamed of being wealthy. So he would
Yeah.
do these things where he would like pretend to be like a working man stiff. And it just was so inauthentic, and people saw it. And then Trump ran, and he was like, I'm the wealthiest person who ever lives. And it was so over the top, but it was very true to him. Pete Buttigieg would do very well to have something that was true to him and not insane like this and trying to be kind of somebody that he's not. Everyone knows he doesn't watch the UFC fights.
I want a journalist to ask him who his favorite fighter is. But really quick to
You
what you
tweeted
were
that.
I
Yeah.
do. I want just who's your favorite UFC fighter? Like, okay, go ahead. But I want to show you to your point, number 9, this recent Emerson poll, and there is a method to my madness why we're talking about this. But to Ryan's point, Mayor Pete has 0% support with black people, according to this Emerson poll. But at the same time, he is leading Harris and Newsom in a 2028 holdup right now. But again, you cannot become president of the United States of America if 0% of black people like you. It's impossible. Black voters are a really important part of the coalition in the Democratic Party. And also, I don't understand, and this goes into like the Mamdani of it all because he's doing so well with like white liberal progressives. I don't understand why, like in the case of Mayor Pete, it's like, well, I really like him, and my opinion is the only thing that matters. It's like, are Democrats going to continue just shooting themselves in the foot? I could actually see them nominating Mayor Pete. And again, it'll be the Titanic, it would be insanity.
I don't think that they would nominate Mayor Pete because he can't listen. The black vote is the one in the Democratic primary is the one that saved Bill Clinton in the nomination process in 92, that got Obama all the delegates he needed in 08, and that saved Joe Biden in 2020. The Deep South is in the Democratic primary is majority black. I don't think Florida is anymore, but up until, I mean, I think 2016, Florida was majority black or plurality black. You cannot win the Democratic primary without winning the black vote in the Deep South. And polling at 0% is not a way. I mean, there's no way to carve that win. It's just not possible. And yeah, he has no chance of winning this nomination whatsoever. Like they're not gonna I'm sorry, they're not gonna nominate a gay guy. Like they are not gonna nominate a gay guy. There are no way Southern Baptist black voters in the Deep South in places like South Carolina and Georgia and Alabama are going to nominate a black guy who, by the way, was detested by black voters when he was mayor of his town. They
Hmm.
hated him constantly when he was mayor. And even post that, what is his record? Does anyone have a memory from the 2020s, from the Biden years when he was transportation secretary and our ports weren't working and we were having food shortages and shipment
Yeah.
shortages? He was a horrible transportation secretary. And then he admitted that he thought it was just ribbon cuttings for new highways. He didn't even know
Yeah.
what the job entailed. You should not nominate somebody because you've seen them on television a lot. I
I
just
also, if he ended up running for president, he took a longer maternity leave than I did, and I had an emergency C-section. So I have serious questions about that. I know it's so easy to hate on Mayor Pete. I really just find him so insufferable. But my last just pin on this is that this is a broader question about why Democrats can't find a leader. They can't find someone to go to. And again, it's just hilarious to me that someone with Mayor Pete's background. And I also want to say one more thing. People are saying that, like, oh, this is clearly homophobia. I actually don't think so. I think for many black voters, and I've seen polling on this and research on this, authenticity is incredibly important to African American voters in the United States of America. And if you're someone who's like, oh, I'm going to follow UFC now because it's going to make men like relate to me, that's not a very authentic thing to do. So I don't know. I don't think it's as simple as just, oh, it's homophobia, because I have this theory, Ryan, and you can agree with it or not. I actually think the first female president and the first gay president are going to be Republicans. I just do.
I mean, I don't, well, there's no leading gay Republican who
There
would
will
possibly
be.
do it, but
Give it time.
okay, maybe. And then for a woman, I could see a woman for sure before I could see a Democratic woman. And I mean, there's one woman candidate who's talking about running for Republican, who's talked about her team mentioned to me about that she's going to run in 2028. And I was just like, you are not the one. Like, there probably will be the one, but she is not the one. It will take a very special kind of woman to do that job. Um, but they probably exist. They're probably alive right now and out there and starting their political career or gaining momentum. But you too often female candidates, both Democrat and Republican, think that in order to be electable, they have to be like male light. They have to be
Hmm.
uber hawkish. They have to scream more. They have to be so aggressive. And not everyone's Margaret Thatcher, and that's okay. Like you're not going to be Hillary Clinton's best moment from the 2016 campaign was when she was in New Hampshire and she cried.
Yeah, I love
And
that
that
too.
was her most what?
I love that.
Yeah, that was her most authentic moment because it was more true to who she was than when she tried to be. That was 2008, rather 2016, but 2008. But that was her most authentic moment. And every other time besides that, she has been remarkably inauthentic, despite being well accomplished, despite being very intelligent. Whether you like her politics or not, she's very smart and very well accomplished. But you don't have to try to be like a man, nor do you have to assume the worst qualities of male politicians in order to be electable. You could just be a normal, woman who shows her side, all of her sides of herself. Um, and maybe they're out there right now. I wouldn't say that they're on the horizon for the next election, but who knows after that.
Can I switch gears with you a little bit? Yesterday, I was really excited about this news, and I want to show number two, this photo, please. So, yesterday, UPenn has agreed to apologize for allowing biological male Leah Thomas to compete on the women's swimming team. They will also vacate all of Thomas's quote records and restore them to the women who rightfully earned them. They will comply with Title IX. And here's the picture, lest we forget. This is Leah Thomas, the trans swimmer, against the biological women that they beat. I think it was like over a minute. Like it wasn't like a close race when it happened. People ask me the things that radicalized me and why I became much more hyper conservative and don't trust the left. This is part of it. I remember when this happened in real time thinking that like this was the emperor's new clothes and I was living in just banana insane land. This is clearly a man competing against women, and that for me so much about this issue, and feel free to disagree with me, but it's like deep rooted misogyny that like we still like seeing women lose, and that the only way to be a complete woman is to actually be a biological male. And like everything about this I thought was unfair and I hated. And I really applaud the work of people like, I'm sorry, I forgot her name. And
Harmeet Dillon.
yes, thank you. People like that who have done so much in so many different ways to fight for this. I saw so many women on social media yesterday saying, this actually is what I voted for. What do you think of the Trump administration taking this issue head on? And what do you think this means for the Ivy League schools going forward?
No, it's the one like culture issue that you see such a massive change on in the direction of conservatives because it's not only a question of morality, the biology is very, very obvious. And it's obvious to anyone who is willing to accept it and their ideology is not their, science. Um, and I think that this is for a lot of mothers of daughters. I mean, the chance of going to college is so expensive. So if you have a kid who's a great swimmer and they can get a scholarship and they have access to maybe a very, very good school that you can't afford, to undercut them is horrific. And think of also the number of Black and Latino mothers of future athletes who excel in it and can't probably afford college, and this is their only avenue into middle class, being part of the middle class and being part of groups that a family that could go to college or first time college degree holders. It's remarkably shocking that the party that defended feminism and was the party that identifies as being feminist was so willing to promote men at the sake of women and say, if you disagree with us, you're the bigot and you have the problem. I think that this is a good step in the right direction. And if the trans athletes want to make their own league, then make their own league where they compete against each other. But to pretend like this is not a man beating women it's a lie. It's delusional and it's a lie.
Can I ask you? You work in conservative politics, so do I. I've sat in on so many focus groups, so many sessions with hypothetical voters. This is a Democrats, Republicans, Independents. This is an 80-20. I would even go so far as maybe saying 90-10 issue. It is a lose, 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 lose issue for Democrats. And yet at the same time, you're still seeing many politicians like your possible new mayor, Mamdani, and people that are saying, no, we actually like it is more important that biological men be able to compete with women than win elections. Why is this, uh, you know, religion to people on the left? I don't understand this in particular. They will not budge on this issue. And it is something that could literally drag them into the pits of like never winning an election in the next 10 to 20 years.
Because the centered idea, this is what a Democrat college kid told me that I thought was actually really profound. He said the center moral vision for democratic politics is that we gear towards justice. So anything that is viewed as a backtrack towards justice in any way, or sort of civil liberties in any way, is a bridge too far. And I think it was Seth Moulton, the Democratic congressman from Massachusetts, who after the election said, I don't support transgender athletes in female sports, and staff members quit on him, consultants quit on him, progressive donors were sitting there and saying they're not going to donate to him anymore. He was one of the very few. Now, his fellow members of Massachusetts did not say anything, but his staff definitely did. And the pressure within, because DC is a bubble and it is a hyper progressive bubble, people will think that the sentiments of DC are the sentiments of the country when they are very much not. And especially at certain cocktail parties and certain meetings of the mind, they have a tendency to have an echo chamber philosophy. So the fear of progressive challengers who are hyper active on this issue, and just the echo chamber of political staff really, I think, affect this a lot.
Um, I want to ask you, and it's sort of in the same vein. So this new, can we show number one, please? This new poll came out that showed that 36% of Democrats say that they were extremely or very proud to be an American. 53% of independents are proud to be an American, while 92% of Republicans have strong levels of pride. It's actually a new low for Democrats and independents. This is from a Gallup poll conducted between June 2nd and June 19th. Um, I this I mean, it doesn't surprise me that 92% of Republicans have strong levels of pride, because every Republican I know is like, about to go like absolutely ape shit buck wild for the 4th of July and like, loves America and all these things. But I am surprised that it's this low for Democrats. Do you think that Republicans now have a stranglehold on patriotism? And this feels weird going into 4th of July weekend, knowing this about, my friends on the left.
Well, I mean, the most shocking thing is Republicans had more. It's very clearly partisan, right? Because there's like a 25-point drop from election to election for Democrats, and so much of Democrats' support for America seemed contingent on who's the president. But what was shocking was in that poll, throughout the entire 8 years of Obama's presidency and 4 years of Joe Biden's presidency, Republicans were still more patriotic than Democrats were. So, I mean, you would think that, oh, maybe it's a partisan thing for each party, but no, it's not a partisan thing for each party. Republicans have been very consistent. I think they bounce between 88 and 95%, which is, fairly consistent. That question started right after 9/11. So everybody was at a very high level right after 9/11. But if you look at the generational difference among Democrats, for Democrats under the age of like 30, it's like, I think 20% or 19%. And when you bathe yourself in both self-hatred, but also hatred of uh, America as a historical concept and American institutions as a way of providing peace and prosperity, it would not be shocking. Who is a redeeming person outside of Martin Luther King to the far left of under 30? Who is a American hero for a Mamdani voter? You were
Yeah.
meant to feel immense shame about this nation, its founding. Even David Hogg was trashing Abraham Lincoln, saying that he had his treatment towards Native Americans makes sure that he's not a hero to be celebrated.
All right.
Okay, if yeah,
All
I
right.
swear to God,
All
that's what
right.
he
Okay.
said. If
All right.
that is if David Hogg represents a big constituency of Democratic
He
voters,
also freed slaves. I mean, but it's like, all
but
right.
no nation in the history of this planet has ever brought freedom to so many people, not only of our own, and not even of slavery, but of the whole entire world, between ending communism, ending fascism in Europe, supporting the end of dictators from Latin America to Europe to Africa. That not all the time have worked, but a lot of times have actually worked. Like when we overthrew the dictator from Mexico back in like the early 1900s, we provided them with a semblance of freedom that they would not have had otherwise. Because Democrats and especially young people, their baseline idea is that prosperity and freedom are the natural order, and it's not that it took a lot of Western thought over the course of thousands of years and the right set of people in the right time in the right place to create a system, a government, a place, a nation, and a people that center themselves around the ideas of peace and freedom and prosperity and freedom that have continued by immense sacrifice by a lot of people who spent their lives and lost their lives defending those ideas, those institutions. You think that if that all went away, our natural state would still be peace and prosperity. No, our natural state would be chaos and horrors. And because they don't know the horrors of history and the immense suffering that most people have sustained throughout that course of humanity, well, then of course you could do better. You always hear them say, "Oh, the America is such a mess right now." America, you would never want to be alive in a different time in a different place than today in this country. It's just a fact. And to poo-poo it and to say that white men have made it bad or Republicans have made it bad or capitalists have made it bad means you don't understand basically anything.
Yeah, and there's such a fetishization on the left of things that don't exist and timelines that don't exist, like you said, like trashing Abraham Lincoln, which again, like any historical figure, there's criticism of one way or the other, but we are looking at the totality of their career and their life and what they gave to America. Like, there's stuff about Martin Luther King that's, a little, whatever about his
Yeah,
personal
there's
life, but like,
every human
let's,
being who's walked the planet
yes,
is flawed, and
yeah,
every human being has had a negative thing that they've done or said in their life. That's not
yeah,
how and people have lived in different times where things that we don't do today were respected then. That's not how you judge somebody.
yeah.
And the thing is that, I mean, this sounds like a trope, but it is genuinely the truth, is that what we are bound by as Americans is our innate sense to one, do better, and two, achieve greatness.
Mhm.
We are the pinnacle of Western civilization. All the things that came out of from starting in Rome and Greece and Jerusalem to the Enlightenment meet a pinnacle in America. And we are, well, though we, are very diverse background, especially now, we collectively are the descendants of greatness, of people who were the greatest entrepreneurs and scientists and leaders and generals and entertainers. All of this is our collective sense of greatness. And if you do not believe America is great, then you reject the idea and you have no pride in it whatsoever. So is it not shocking that you sit there and rip this entire nation apart because you don't understand that all the greatness that could possibly be achieved in one location is in this country, and you are lucky enough to walk on the grounds of the men buried below it who brought you that kind of freedom.
I completely agree. That's really well said. I want to show you, in the same vein of like Republicans being patriotic and having a good moment right now. Can we please play number 4? I love Harry Enton. I hate all of CNN except I fuck with Harry Enton. I really like him on TV and I like how he talks. Number 4, please.
Okay, so we're going to look at the strongly approved number. So this isn't just Republicans who like Donald Trump. This is Republicans who love Donald Trump. And he's up like a rocket. Look at this. In July 2017, the strongly approved was 53%. That's pretty good. But look at where he is now. 63% of Republicans strongly approve of the job that Donald Trump is doing about 5 months into his presidency. Republicans love Donald Trump the way that Americans love Disney World. The bottom line is 63%. That is a huge, huge base. And of course, it's just part of a Republican base in which about 90% of them overall approve of him, including the somewhat approves as well.
Okay, so this poll is pretty amazing because it also just shows how united Republicans are in general. 63% is a really impressive number right now. At the same time, when we have our next guest who's going to be talking about this, Democrats are in like real disarray and they're struggling with this socialist extremist, Mamdani, who I think has an extremely high likelihood of becoming mayor of New York City. You live in New York City. What is your takeaway on the fracturization, if that's a word, the fracturing, excuse me, of the left, and at the same time, the extreme popularity of Trump and MAGA among us in Republican land?
Well, I think with Mamdani, the thing with the left is the complacency. It's not that he won, this is a city of 9 million people. It's not like he got 5 million votes. He got relatively, I think, 9% of all registered voters and 4% of people who live there. It's just that no one else wanted to go vote. And the left, and what was the message of Andrew Cuomo and most other Democrats? And that's just in the city of New York, but in the nation. Democrats' message to voters is, I will manage the decline better than anybody else. It is not optimistic. It is not forward thinking. It is not ambitious. Mamdani's vision for the city is not one that I want. It's not one that I agree with. But if you do believe in it, he's offering you a tangible vision in his idea. And his ideas, same with Bernie Sanders, same with AOC. Now, New York just happens to have enough of those kinds of people to sit there and win a mayoral election. I don't know if there is definitely not enough people to win that nationwide for a candidate. But among those who are believers and they want someone who has that kind of dream, that kind of vision, they will go out and vote in, rain, sleet, snow, or heat. And the rest of the Democratic voters are just, they're there for the moment and they're complacent with the entire thing. And they didn't show up. Andrew Cuomo got less black voters to show up for him than Eric Adams did 4 years prior. And the black voters in New York City are the base of the conservative Democrat vote or the moderate Democrat voters. They offer no vision and nothing to be excited about. And managed decline is not something that is an engine for any political movement.
What do you think the future of MAGA looks like? Just given the question is always like, how does it exist outside of Trump? Because he's obviously such a cult of personality as well as being a political figure. I've been like wildly impressed by so much of what he's done, really happy with so many of the policies. Like we just talked about this, UPenn news with Leah Thomas. Like I think he's keeping a lot of the promises that he made to voters, and he clearly seems to understand that he has one term to get this done. What do you think the future looks like without him as the head of the ticket?
I think that's like the big question. There's a lot of people who are wearing MAGA face, as I call it, who are running around saying, that they love, Trump and the party and that they're with the base and they're America first. I think it's a big question mark, and I think it will be decided by whomever the nominee is in 2028. But I think that the legacy that he has created, that you don't have to accept the norms because they are the norms, is something that will seep deeply within Republican circles. I think having somebody say, well, why just can't we sit there and do it differently? will we will never go back, or not, maybe not never, but we will not go back in any short period of time to, lack of a better, not to trash him because I don't have a problem with it, but Romneyism. You know what I mean? We will not go back to the institutionalized Republican Party that sits there and says we have to protect these people and these groups and these institutions who hate us, who crap on our voters. And I think that you're going to see a continuation of that. I think that look at the vote we just had. It was an amendment for the big, better, the BBB stuff. It was a vote on increasing taxes on people who make more than $50 million a year. And Josh Hawley supported it. Bernie Moreno supported it. Some pretty MAGA people supported it. And it's a complete, against what I guess, quote unquote, Reaganism. But it would make sense because who makes more than $50 million a year? Bankers, tech bros, and Taylor Swift. The Democratic Party. And it was to go for rural hospitals. It was to sit there and fund rural hospitals. And Democrats voted it down and killed the bill. But the point is that they're willing to define old tropes of the Republican Party that don't work for the current storm that we're in, as Lincoln said when he was giving one of his speeches.
My last question for you is there's a lot of drama between Elon Musk and President Trump. I want to show you this clip of Trump saying that he wants to deport him. Number 3, please.
Who? What happened to Elon Musk? Nothing. He's upset that he's losing his EV mandate, and he's very upset about things, but he could lose a lot more than that. I can tell you right now. Hey, Elon can lose a lot more than that.
He also went on to say not everybody wants an electric car. That's me. I don't want an electric car. I don't want
I don't
Tesla.
want one
I don't want one. I don't want it. I like SUVs. Judge away. I don't care. I do not want an electric car. I have found the breakdown of their relationship predictable but fascinating about how ugly it has gotten between the two of them. Also, I'm pretty sure Elon's a citizen now, so I don't think we can deport him. I'm not entirely sure.
You can. I mean, you'd have to. I mean, he'd have to like support a terrorist organization, but you can
Okay.
strip someone's citizenship away. It's rather difficult, and there's a long process to it. And it's under certain circumstances that they strip citizenship away. It's not, because you wear the wrong hat one day. But yeah, I wish they did a little classier. I really wish Trump would have been like Mariah Carey and said, "I don't know her." That would have
Yeah.
been much better. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's not really Trump's style. This is when people should actually take notes from the housewives about how to make an insult happen that's actually funnier and quicker and better.
Do you
Yeah.
think in any way it hurts anything going forward?
It depends on how invested Elon gets in this, where he starts funding primary challengers or attacking primary challengers. I mean, we'll see if this is just something he's interested in the moment, because he's had some things that burn out. I don't know. Elon has a point with the arguments that he's making. I don't think that it's completely accurate to say it's only on the spending stuff, but this is the world we live in. This is the politics we live in. We were never going to pass a budget in one year that was supposed to balance the entire, but it just wasn't going to happen. So anything we can to get closer to that is a good thing. I wish it was more of a shared sacrifice, but it's a good thing overall to get closer to that. And but there was no way. I mean, Democrats were never going to go along with it. I mean, if Democrats would say, "Hey, I'll hold your hand and we'll do Medicaid reform, real Medicaid reform, and Medicare reform, and balance the budget in one year, and military, whatever, and reform and audit the Pentagon," yeah, it's possible. But we don't have partners willing to make those kinds of sacrifices.
I always thought it was weird that at the time when Elon was so close to Trump, I thought that it seemed like maybe Elon thought that he was the vice president or he was co-president. And at the time I was like, this will end badly. There is one president and one vice president, and they were duly elected by the American public. And I would not vote for Elon Musk for president respectfully. Like, I just wouldn't, for a lot of different reasons. I also need a first lady. It's important to me. I love first and second ladies, clearly. And I just like, I would not vote for him for president. And I remember at the time being like, this will end poorly. And lo and behold, it has. My last question for you. What are you doing for the 4th of July? You and your family are doing anything fun?
We are
And
doing a barbecue in Mississippi. I was invited
ah,
to go to a wedding in Greece, but instead I will be in Mississippi. So
it's gonna be hot.
almost the same thing.
And I assume you're part of the 92% of Republicans who have strong
Yes,
levels of
I am getting, as I get older, I'm getting like, it's so funny when like my grandparents were, one of them was alive and one of them was, had more of her wits about her, but she, like I was like, why are they so overly patriotic? It's exhausting. And now I'm like, I'm not that at their age, but I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer to where they are and understanding that. I'm like, wow, I understand them a lot more, and I am more patriotic, I think, as the years go on. I think you sit there and you see enough and you're like, wow, we really live in an exceptional place.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah.
agree. I love the 4th of July. It's my favorite holiday.
It's
So
my favorite
that
holiday. It's also a very low demanding holiday. Like,
totally,
you don't have to buy
totally.
presents, you know what I mean? Like, it's pretty easy going. You
Yeah.
make a dessert, you get some barbecue stuff. You blow up part of your country because you love it so much. And it's a great day.
Yes, and my favorite YouTube video is the Put It in Reverse Terry. I don't know if you've seen that. It's
No, I'm
really
gonna check
funny.
it out though.
Google it. Ryan, I love you so much.
Love you
Please
too.
follow him. His Substack is fabulous, National Populist Substack, and his show, the Numbers Game podcast, which by the way is a huge success. Congratulations!
Thank
I
you.
think.
New episode comes out tomorrow. So check it out.
And everybody talks about it, which is I love a talker. And do you want people to follow anything else other than your Ryan Gerdusky on X? Anything else
I'm
you
on
want to plug?
Instagram too, but I just post clips like I'll post this clip. So no, that's all.
Great.
Thank
All right,
you.
Ryan, I hope you have a wonderful 4th
You
of
too.
July.
Happy 4th.
See you soon. All right, we are switching gears really quick. I am so excited. We have Amy Parnas here. Hi, Amy. Thank you so much for coming on. I know it's like very close to 4th of July weekend and most shows are dark, but we are not. So thank you so much
Oh, of
for
course, of
making
course. I
time.
took my vacation last week, so this week I'm open.
Well, fabulous. Okay, so for people that don't know, Amy is the senior political correspondent at The Hill and co-author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, Fight and Shatter. Scattered. Congratulations. Nothing I've ever written has even come remotely close to being a #1 bestseller. So congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that. And you can find Amy on X at Amy Parnas. I'm so happy to talk to you because ever since the mayoral primary, my social circles have been exploding. Obviously, I'm conservative about what is going to happen to New York City, what is going to happen if Mamdani ends up winning. I want to show the graphic #7. You actually just wrote a story in The Hill talking about how Democrats are grappling with where Mamdani fits with the party's rebuild. I've been fascinated to see some of the Democrats who have endorsed him, other Democrats who refuse to endorse him. Hakeem Jeffries had a very sort of slippery way of being like, I don't know him. That's why I haven't endorsed him. That's a ridiculous answer, obviously. Through your reporting, where does he fit in the future of the party?
So it's interesting. I'm writing another story right now about how he does sort of fit. A lot of Democrats are pointing to his success and his rise as we have learned something from 2024. And here's a guy who's talking to the people and he's talking about affordability and he's talking about issues that matter to voters. And that's something that in a lot of these postmortems that have been done, a lot of Democrats have concluded that they just failed to speak to voters. So there is this type in the party who is saying, yes, this is exactly what we need. We need more of him. He's actually very Trumpian in the way he talks. Like you can think about how Trump was talking about draining the swamp and really speaking to voters. Here's a guy who does that in the Democratic Party, but there are a lot of people, particularly a lot of donors. I wrote this story because my phone was blowing up from donors who were so dismayed at what was happening and saying, I don't really understand my party anymore. And here's a guy who is making all these, anti-Israel statements and is giving Democrats, is giving Trump a foil, like an automatic foil. And what is happening? And so there is this exacerbation happening of all the infighting. And it's really fascinating, actually.
I'm so fascinated by this story, his election. I actually, not to humble brag, but my colleague Mark Halperin, I actually was telling him that I was like, I think he's going to win. I think Mamdani is going to win. I said, because just anecdotally on my social media, every white liberal that I went to Columbia with or influencer that I follow, they're very hyped up about him, and enthusiasm and momentum, especially late game momentum, is so important in elections. But I do want to ask you, I'm friends with Jonathan Greenblatt, who's the head of the Anti-Defamation League. He's a really wonderful man, does really hard work. And he went on, I believe it was CNN yesterday, and he was talking about how Mamdani can't just pick which Jewish voters he wants to speak to, that he has to speak to all Jewish voters, that basically he's choosing to speak to Jewish voters who are pro-Palestine, not ones that are Zionists. How much of an issue does that present for Mamdani, but also broadly for Democrats going forward? And I know I'm filibustering a little bit, and I apologize. I also saw Peter Orszag, a clip of him on CNBC, basically saying the same thing, that Democrats need to decide where they stand on Israel, where they stand on anti-Semitism, and make a choice, because this sort of double lining it is not going to work for a presidential candidate in 2028.
No, and I do think it's a problem for him. I mean, you have people like Nadler, Congressman Nadler, who, represents parts of Manhattan in that area, and he came out and endorsed him and was one of the few people who came out and, said good things about him. But I think that it's still an issue, and I've spoken to people around his anti-Israel comments. I mean, it's going to be a thing for him until he sort of talks more about it, explains more. I mean, there are people who live in Manhattan, for example, that I've spoken to who have serious issues with what he has said. And I think that he's going to have to continue to connect to them. I still think he's going to win. I don't think
I do
it's going to
too.
hold him back in any way. I think this is a done deal pretty much. But I do think that in order to it's such a touchy issue, and he's going to have to sort of make amends there. It's the one real prickly issue that faces him at this point.
Yeah, and he's going on TV with Kristen Welker, who I just think is like a really wonderful interviewer,
Yeah.
refusing to disavow saying globalize the Intifada, which is a international call for violence against Zionists. I
Yeah.
myself am a Zionist, so is that an international call for violence against me? Like, I have many questions about this, but I found it interesting that President Obama has not endorsed or tweeted any kind of support. I think President Obama's instincts are pretty on target with many things. What happens, like, because I've been trying to talk to it won't surprise you, Amy, that like Democrats I'm friends with tend to be more center
Yeah.
left than progressive. But the
Yeah.
Democrat friends that I have been very concerned about like what a DNC looks like in 2028. Is globalize the Intifada a big part of the platform? What happens to a stage where John Fetterman and Mamdani are sharing pillars together? Like, to me,
Yeah.
this seems like completely untenable. Through your reporting, are there other people that feel that way as well?
Oh my God, so many people, Megan, who are just so confused about. I think this is like why people were proactively reaching out to me to begin with, because I think there is this division and kind of a civil war in the party right now about where it goes. It's fascinating to watch where it goes and who is in control. And a lot of people are saying people like him are the future. And the story that I'm writing right now about whether Democrats can win back all these people who supported Trump, which is fascinating to me to begin with. It's like an ongoing story. A lot of them are saying this guy is, call him what you want, but he is speaking the language of Trump, and he can win back a lot of these centrists, which I am skeptical about that because I think people will see him and be really afraid of what he represents, particularly because of anti-Israel and all of that. So I don't know. I'm a little skeptical about calling Donnie the future of the party. I think it has to play out a little more, and I think he has to do a little more explaining.
For the coalition, there are a lot of people that I know that are like, oh, AOC should run for president in 2028. Now, I am not a Democrat, so I don't pretend to completely understand where the base is, but it does look like the base of the party is a pro-socialist, anti-Zionist party. And I'm not negating Mamdani's talent. I've seen plenty of ads he's run. He's very shrewd, made really beautiful TikTok ads. Like, I get it, but what he's saying does scare me. I am obviously so far from being a socialist. It's ridiculous, and I think a lot of his proposals for things just are not based in logic. I don't think government run grocery stores are logical. I don't think taking all of the housing in New York and turning it into like city run housing in general is something that is not only feasible, but I don't even understand how you would like take property from people. But that's a
Yeah.
whole other, like, so much of it is just like things people said to me when I was at Columbia in a political science class where I was like, this is not real life.
No.
But I think that like I think this side could win. I think the socialists and the AOC part of it could win. Do you think that she's feeling emboldened right now?
I think she does, but I think, I have looked into this quite a bit and talked to a lot of people around it, with her rallies with Bernie. And while the energy is there, it's like the party hasn't learned that you can't just rally the MSNBC crowd. You
Mhm.
have to look beyond that crowd. And that is key to winning. And I think that is where the energy is right now, no doubt. But I think it has to move beyond that. I think it's tricking itself into thinking, yes, this is our MAGA movement. This is like where we are. I think it needs more than that. It has to go back to, the 2000s and Gephardt and the 50 state solution or game plan that Howard Dean came up with, where it's speaking to a lot of different people and not just one specific crowd that likes AOC and Bernie. It has to expand. It has to go back to those roots, but an updated version of that. You can't just run the same game plan, which I think is part of their problem. They keep running the same game plan from 2016, even though the country has evolved, people have evolved culturally. So I think they have to look past that in a way, if that makes sense.
No, it makes complete sense. But I have been surprised by how many Democrats are bending the knee to this, including President Clinton, who at one point in time I thought was a big friend to Israel, and clearly things have shifted. Amy, really quickly, we have a question from Donnie for you. Donnie, can you come in? Hi, how are you? Where are
Good.
you calling in from or zooming in from? Excuse me.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania,
Oh,
actually.
John Fetterman's stomping ground. What is your question for Amy?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about, someone who's coming from, I'm a Pittsburgh guy, and John Fetterman's a Pittsburgh guy. Fetterman, everyone needs to know he began as progressive, but then he's
Yeah,
completely centrist as of lately. Maybe it does have to do with the fact that the state that he is, I mean, the state voted for Trump, I mean, and all of that, but they call him the loneliest Democrat, and I don't know what to say about that because I mean, and we're talking about the whole, I mean, Mamdani being the future of the Democratic Party, AOC being the future. I got to be honest, that scares me. Like,
me too.
scares me. I mean, I know the people who hate Trump, and I mean, I'm someone who hates who I'm an independent. I mean, I was a Republican, I'm a centrist, independent, all over the place basically. But I don't like the guy, but I try not to let my hate towards the guy judge my opinions on other people. Like, I don't mean like, and I know some people who kind of let it affect them, ruin their
Sure.
lives almost. I just had that feeling. I hate Mamdani. I just feel like I'm almost trending down that path if it's someone who's a big Trump hater and can't see past it. I try not to, but it's just hard with all the stuff when he talks about socialism and all that. I
Do you
mean,
have a specific question for Amy in regards to this? Because she's done a lot of reporting on that.
I have a question for you.
It's okay if you don't. If it's a little stage fright, it's all right. Well, let me show one clip to both of you really quick, Amy. So this is John Fetterman, your senator, has said that this is a gift to all Republicans. Mamdani is, and then Trump officially wants to arrest Mamdani. Number 5, please.
Yeah.
Mr. President, your beloved New York City may well be led by a communist soon, Zorhan Mandami, who in his nomination speech said he will defy ICE and will not allow ICE to arrest criminal aliens in New York City. Your message to communist Zorhan Mandami.
Well, then we'll have to arrest him. Look, we don't need a communist in this country, but if we have one, I'm going to be watching over him very carefully on behalf of the nation. We're going to be watching that very carefully, and a lot of people are saying he's here illegally. We're going to look at everything, and ideally, he's going to turn out to be much less than a communist. But right now, he's a communist. That's not a socialist.
So, do you agree with that, Amy? Do you think that this is a gift to Republicans? Obviously, I don't really understand the legalities of how you could possibly arrest a United States citizen, which he is, but it's a lot of showboating and virtue signaling. Oh, thank you, Donnie. Sorry, and showboating about Republicans hating this guy so much.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was hearing from donors in particular and people in the business community who are saying, what are we doing? How are we rebuilding with this guy? Trump came up right away because they pointed to his comments and said he's always looking for a foil in the Democratic Party, and welcome, here's a new foil for him. He's always looking for examples of how the Democratic Party is going wrong, and here's the latest example. I mean, he won in 2024 by kind of like tying Kamala to Biden, and there she was saying she couldn't, get away from him. And he's always looking for a clip, and he's gotten clips out of this guy right away.
Yeah, and again, I think he's going to be the gift that keeps on giving to Republicans. Amy, we have yet another question for you from the audience. Thank you guys so much for engaging. I believe we have a question from Jeremy for Amy. Hi, Jeremy. It's nice to see you. He's a friend of the show. How are you?
Very good, thanks, Megan. Great to see you too. It'd be certainly much better if the largest city right next to where I live isn't about to elect a communist as mayor, but A question wanted to ask you about your book, Amy, which is great, but also a question about Mamdani. How much of the conversations you're having with Democrats now remind you of the conversations among Republicans of during the 2016 electoral cycle? Because for me, speaking as a former member of the Never Trump caucus, the discussions, oh, maybe Cruz and Rubio can team up and deny Trump the nomination. Those sort of the bargaining discussions I'm hearing cycle through the media from Democrats in New York City now. Once someone has gotten to this commanding point, it's too late to stop them.
Oh yeah, it's beyond too late. And there are discussions happening. I've spoken to people who are having those discussions, but I think that, he's got it made. I think that he's on his way to victory, and he's appealing to a certain, first of all, Cuomo was a horrible, I think not the
Yeah.
best candidate to run against him, and he ran this race almost as like he was running for governor and not mayor, and was kind of on cruise control and didn't really talk to people in the way that you have to talk to people. I think that Mamdani ran a really good race in terms of, talking to people, connecting with them, talking to them about issues that matter to them. And I just don't see other people coming forward I mean, they're going to challenge him, but I don't see any real opposition.
Right.
It's
And
so funny. Sorry to interrupt you, Jeremy, one moment. It's so funny you say that because I actually saw Bill Ackman, the billionaire financier, tweeting a bunch of tweets, and I was told my husband, I was like, he's in the bartering stage of grief. Like he is clearly not accepting like the stuff he was proposing. And again, obviously no one gets to that level. It's not a brilliant person, but we could learn a little more about the American political process and trends because what he was proposing again is also not based in reality. There is no feasible way that these write-in candidates that he's saying are going. I don't believe it. I think I agree with Amy. I think Mamdani is the next mayor for worse or worse. But I agree with you. There's like definitely, and Amy, I don't know if this happens, this is the feeling you're getting when you talk to people, but it feels like stages of grief. And then at some point they'll get to acceptance.
Yeah, which, the Democratic Party is great at, as you know.
And
Yes, Jeremy.
Mamdani is clearly a smart and agile enough politician to finesse away a lot of his statements that he was making up until about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Like he's not going to go up and like campaign express and say like, oh yes, of course I'm going to confiscate all the means of production. And it says something. It says something about both Mamdani and where he perceives the Democratic Party as saying like the Intifada is the one thing he's not willing to back away from.
Right.
But
Right.
that's a whole other story. Like he's not going to be dumb enough to go out there and say yes, liquidate the kulaks, to liquidate the kulaks tomorrow. So I don't think there's going to be much of a toehold for like someone to catch on. Maybe Eric Adams will get some bounce back support, but he's not nearly a good enough talker or campaigner to do that. And that would be the case even if he, wasn't comically corrupt.
Yes,
And had to make a comically bad bargain with the Trump administration.
Jeremy, you have a question about her book?
Yes. This is something I love both Shattered and Fight.
Thank you.
So I should say I have to admit I didn't read Lucky. Don't take that as saying I didn't like it. But
I will.
but anyway, the one thing that struck me about reading one thing that one of the strongest and most interesting points from Shattered was that this strong conviction among Hillary's top associates was that she made a huge mistake in conceding the election at 2 a.m. on election night.
Yeah.
And then on election night 2024, many of those same people were saying, like, no matter what happens, Kamala, don't concede, don't concede.
Yeah.
And the question for that is why? Why in the world are they so convinced that conceding was such a mistake? It's not as if while both those elections were close in historical terms, it's not as if they were recountable. It's not as if the outcome wasn't determined by election night in either cycle. So
Yeah.
I don't get that. I don't get why they're so convinced that Hillary made a huge mistake in conceding in 2016.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and there were a lot of parallels. We kind of did a nod to the people who, just Shattered, and the people who'd read Shattered kind of understood what happened. But I think they were so reticent to kind of repeat that dynamic. And she went into that night thinking she was going to win, as did Governor Walz. They were in shock. I mean, that's sort of the bombshell of the book. Not to spoil it for people who haven't read it, but they went in there thinking that they had it in the bag, and they were shocked that they had lost. And so I think people were kind of reticent to have her kind of concede, and she was even like, should we do a recount? Is that in the cards? And so I think she didn't want to either, but I think they were, yeah, it's a very interesting question, one that we don't really have a solid answer for, but I think they really thought that they were going to win that night.
Right. And yeah, and I remember for you report in your book that Kamala was asking her advisors, like, can we do a recount, arena recount territory? They told her, no, no, there isn't.
Yeah.
We
So
lost every swing state. I mean,
yeah.
like
I
absurd.
know,
I mean,
but yet
it
they
was-
had David
but-
Plouffe out there the night before, essentially saying, "We're gonna win. We're gonna sweep every swing state,"
Oh,
and that was their frame of mind. So they can
Yes.
have revisionist history all they want, but this is actually what happened.
yes. Can I ask one other quick question about the book, which is about the Jen O'Malley Dillon? It definitely comes in, again, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't read the book, but she comes across as someone who made a lot of enemies within the party and was a very sharp elbows. And my question is that really extreme by the standards of people who run national presidential campaigns? Or is it just that anyone who gets to that point is going to have very sharp elbows and play rough and, just and make a lot of enemies along the way?
Mhm.
I don't think it has to be that way. I'm actually one of the people, I'm a woman, obviously, and I don't think that you need to have sharp elbows to
Mhm.
get ahead. And I've told peers and mentees that you don't have to be that woman.
Yeah.
You can be kind and you can be gracious and you can still hold your ground. And I know Megan, she's
Di-
proof of that too.
Oh, David Axelrod's one of the loveliest people in politics. Like a very
Yeah.
kind, generous man. Charlie Black, who worked for my dad, is like basically like Mr. Rogers. I mean,
Right.
there are good people that work on campaigns and stuff. I agree with Amy. I don't concede this idea that you have to just be a horrible, like, aggressive, disrespectful person. Sadly, politics tends to attract those kind of people. But I actually think that was a big problem with a lot of people working for Biden, is that they were just so rude to the press and so rude to, any dissenting opinion of any kind. It obviously ended up hurting them pretty badly. Jeremy, thank you so much for your questions and for contributing. We love seeing you as usual. Amy, I know we're running a little bit on time, but I have one more question for you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
My audience has been very interested in this Emerson poll, number 9, please. Mayor Pete is obviously throwing his name around as a candidate for president coming up. He, obviously wants to run again. This has him narrowly, leading Harris and Newsom for 2028. But the big takeaway from this is he has 0% with African American voters. This was his problem when he ran for president before. He's clearly made no headway at all. Why is he a figure people are still looking to? And again, I'm not trying to disrespect him. He just doesn't seem like a formidable person from my perspective to be the nominee in 2028.
He has a very solid constituency, I think, besides like the fact that he can't attract Black voters, which I think is highly, highly problematic for him as a candidate. I don't think you can win in the Democratic Party without appealing to Black voters. And so I think he tried, if you remember, in 2020 to, come up with a racial justice plan, and all of that failed. So he's going to have to do better there. But I do think that it boils down to his very loyal Buttigieg constituency, these highly educated voters, the MSNBC crowd, if you will, not to broad brush, but I think that that's all that is.
Hmm. Yeah, it's just really interesting to me that you said like it's that kind of crowd because I'm like, this just isn't a person that again, he is certainly an impressive politician to an extent, but I think there's a ceiling for him beyond the African American vote. I mean, it has nothing to do with the fact that he's gay. It's because he's not as not shrewd and talented of a politician as he should be. Amy, last question for you. You said you're doing more reporting on Mamdani. Is there anything you can share with us? I know you can't give everything away, but anything you're working on right now, you can let us in on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on this story for the weekend about looking at the New York race because a lot of Democrats, it's kind of a follow to the story that we talked about, but a lot of Democrats have pointed to that race as proof that they've grown, proof that they can win back some of these Trump supporters who were traditionally Democrats and crossed over. Once again, I'm a little skeptical, but they are looking at this race as sort of a test case in a way. Once again, I think New York is its own beast, and I don't think
Totally.
it can be a test case in any way. But they're saying, look, this is a guy who is sort of Trumpian, can speak to people. We have learned our lesson on messaging, and he's proof of that. And so we're examining that a little bit more.
I would love to see him go, because if this is the future, I think Democrats should send him as a surrogate to Iowa, New Hampshire, South, whatever, any swing state that's not completely blue and see how it plays. See him interact with, more normal, and I that sounds terrible, but, more, classic voters in the Democrat coalition outside of Manhattan. So I agree with you. I have many, 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 many questions, but I think that, in the Democrat Party, the hype on MSNBC tends to like lead things no matter what the polling says. So it'll certainly be something interesting to watch. Amy, I hope you have a wonderful 4th of July weekend. Are you doing anything fun to
No, just
celebrate?
very low key. Like as I said, my vacation was last week, so I'm gonna hang out with some family and my son, who's very into the 4th of July and fireworks. So we're gonna keep it.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. Please come back anytime. You can find Amy on X at Amy Parnas, and you can find her work at The Hill and pick up her #1 New York Times best-selling books, Fight and Shattered. Please come back anytime, Amy. I always love speaking with you.
Thank you, Megan. I appreciate it. I have fun too.
Yeah, good. Happy 4th of July.
Thank
And
you.
to everyone watching, you can follow Amy and Ryan. I am so excited for the 4th of July coming up. I have a friend in studio. Do you want to come in? Do you want to jump in real quick and say hi? Or are you camera shy? Look who's here. Look who's here. Sarah's here. Wave. Yes, my Sarah who has zoomed in before. My best friend from home. We're here. We're going to go celebrate the 4th of July with our thousands of kids and have so much fun here in Northern Arizona. Everybody knows I'm in Sedona. I don't know why I'm trying to hide it anymore. But my PR person was like, you shouldn't tell people where you are every second of the day. And I'm like, when I am in Arizona, I am in one of two places. I am in Phoenix or I'm in Sedona. There is nothing like, okay. Anyway, but I hope you guys have a really wonderful 4th of July. Celebrate all the wonderful things, even Democrats. It's okay. You don't have to admit you love America, but just pretend to, and pretend, actually, you probably all do love America. You just don't want to admit it. It's fine. Let's all come together and celebrate this weekend. I hope you guys have a wonderful time, and we'll be back again. We're back Monday. I don't have this time off. I'm still working here at this lovely studio in Northern Arizona. So we'll see you same time, same place on Monday and Wednesday. We're going to keep going. My break is in August, so we have a bit of time still. More stuff coming for you, and we've got some really wonderful, big, juicy interviews coming. Thank you to all the people who are saying yes. We're very excited for that. I'm going to have to actually travel to do some of them, which is very exciting. Anyway, hope you have a great weekend, and we will see you on Monday.